Hey guys, someone in the chat already said, hey guys, hi Don. Fucking hell, I'm so predictable. How are you guys doing? Everyone alright? Been a wild few days, or in general, a wild week. You better say it's going to 60k again? Who said that? I never said that. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about this stuff. Gonna be interesting for sure, because I mean, this bounce is pretty significant, I would say. And there's plenty to talk about. Sounds a bit low? Oh yeah. Sorry about that. Better now? I hope it is. Volume is low. Should be much better now. Okay. So high time frame wise, it still looks hilariously bad without log and completely fine with log chart. So there's really not that much to do with this. High time frame support still 14k. I mean, that's not going to help you if you're targeting that right here. I think you're crazy. I mean, if anything, like high time frame wise, if you would be targeting that, which I'm not, but if you would be, you would expect this to bounce and then go down, right? But like I said, I'm not. So this isn't really helpful. Monthlies, whatever. The weekly time frame, sorry for this, let's go on this one. The weekly time frame, still trading in the support zone, right? We've talked about this every single week since we basically broke out of it, and pulled back, hit support, pulled back a little bit too deep and hit resistance, and we've had all kinds of shenanigans in here. So yeah, that's just been sideways, and that's what the weekly still says, sideways. So yeah, there you go. I mean, that's basically the high time frames, right? This has not changed, and this, like my high time frame view on Bitcoin is still sideways until it breaks either the range high or the range low. Range low being 32k, range high being 38k, right? There's nothing really too exciting on this time frame, but on the lower time frames, there's some exciting stuff going on. Before we talk about that, I want to mention the sponsor of the show, Blockfolio. Really appreciate their support. Their links are in the description if you want to check them out. They do all of the portfolio tracking that they've always done, and now you can trade on there too with your mobile phone. So check them out. Sorry for that. I usually do it at the start of the stream, but got too excited. So yeah, the lower time frames, as in the daily time frame, is interesting. And I tweeted about this yesterday, and this was kind of the plan. I left it on there so I could talk about it today. We broke down yesterday and everything looked really bad. And a lot of people were like getting really bearish on this move down, right? And whenever you get like these comparatively small moves where a lot of like people get really bearish, you usually get a squeeze. Now, what I hoped for was that longs would get liquidated so I could get filled lower to play the bounce. But what we did instead is just like poked below the previous low and then just went up. Now this analysis looks really good, right? Because I mean, it played out wonderfully. It's just my bids were a little bit lower, so I got scuffed on that. And then I started coping, and I mean, that's just is how it is, right? Even the best among us, and I'm not saying I'm the best among us, do like silly mistakes. And that was kind of me. I was just like, fuck this, I'm going to sleep, see how it looks tomorrow. And that was basically already a green dildo. DAX shrinking again? Nope. But I've been climbing again. So getting back into doing sports and shit. So finally can do that. Because COVID's been calming down in Germany. But yeah, so that bounce that we're having right now, in my opinion, is pretty significant. One, because it now sets pretty much a really good invalidation for longs, right? Because realistically, if we go below here again, I think it's fucked. Like this is now where we cannot go below again. like anything below 30K, I think we just go straight to 20. And that's something that you're going to have to be prepared for if it does that, right? Let's say this fizzles out. I mean, I don't think you're going to have any support in the 30 to 28K range. And I don't think anything or anyone is going to step in below that either. So you're going to have like a quick way down to 20K, right? Now, you might be saying, shit, that's really bad, right? Because, I mean, I'm a bull and I want to see this thing go up. But it's actually really nice to be in a position like that because you know exactly where, I mean, you want price not to go, right? And as long as that doesn't happen, you can be bullish relatively, like you can be relatively chill about being bullish, right? So this fizzles out and goes to like 30K. I mean, get the fuck out, in my opinion, anyway. Like I would expect the market to just vanish at that point. But as long as that doesn't happen, I'm expecting 40K to be hit because, I mean, this is the range, right? Range high, range low. We've been kind of ping-ponging in between there. I've been talking about this for weeks now, and it's been playing out pretty well. And I think that's going to continue. But this time around, because we kind of poked below the range, I think there's a good chance that we're going to poke above the range. So that's kind of my view on the market right now. I think we're probably going to head higher up. And then we're going to have to wait and see if there's like continued strength above 40K. I mean, I could see it go higher. If not, I mean, it's just going to be sideways. And yeah, so this is a pretty nice bounce. For me, it kind of makes the bullish argument much, much better. Doesn't have to mean the bottom's in, right? Like I said, if we go below 30K, I literally think the market's going to vanish. But it makes the invalidation pretty tight if you want to get long. I mean, like if you get like 34K, your invalidation is like 3K, right? So thinking about this, right? If you want to get positioned, you have like something like this of a play to make, right? And that's a really good play to make. And having that is really nice. So, I mean, I really like it. Makes sense to kind of look at it and be at least a little bit on the bullish side of things. Climbing, he's talking about the League of Legends ladder. Nope. I've actually not been playing any games, really. Just been hanging with real life friends and trying to get back into shape. But really, I mean, failing miserably at that so far. Super cycle, I mean, that's not something that I want to call because, I mean, there's a good chance that whatever bounce this produces, that's going to be the complacency bounce, right? But I mean, at least I'm not like, I was kind of like doom and gloomy for this, basically for this entire part of the market. Or like even, you can even add this daily. And since yesterday, not so much anymore. So, I mean, it could be wrong, right? Could be that the market just vanishes, but I don't think it's going to. Looks pretty good to me so far anyway. Don, shorts are moving higher at a pretty fast rate. Is this concerning? That's the one thing that I'm watching. Bitfinex shorts, something that you can watch too if you want to. Bitcoin USD shorts on Bitfinex. So there's like a bunch of whales on Bitfinex. And whenever like short and long positions go crazy on there, shit's gonna get interesting. And we've had a massive increase of shorts in the last few days. So, I mean, I can't interpret that. Like, I just know we're going to get like some drastic movements. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be to the up or the downside. But given invalidation is so clear, it doesn't really concern me too much because, yeah, if you get a move into like the 30Ks again, like, or start closing below 34K, right? I mean, if that happened today, I would think, okay, we're just going to go fuck off to nothing. But I don't think it's going to happen today. And if it happened in general, like that's kind of my line in the sand where I would be seriously tempted to just sit out, do nothing. But until like that happens, I mean, it just makes sense. Target 40K. So, I mean, that's basically my view on the market. Yeah, we're ranging. I was kind of like For me, this range was a bearish one. Like I was expecting a bearish outcome, even though like I was like, this is bearish. I'm expecting sideways anyway. And now it's like I'm expecting sideways, but it's not necessarily bearish anymore. Like the bearish leaning kind of part in me is gone now. Like I could see this, like I think the chances of this breaking to the upside before deciding where it wants to go is higher than it breaking to the downside. So make of that what you will. Will you sell 40K again? Nope. I mean, I would have to buy first. I mean, I'm going to see where the daily closes today and then probably get like a small position and then maybe buy, like maybe sell 40K again, but I don't know. Would have to buy first though. I mean, I wouldn't have that problem if I actually got filled because my orders and where I want to get filled was basically in here. And basically got dodged and then got mad about it. And yeah, shouldn't have been. Should have just chased. But it's what it is. I'll gladly take the hopium. I mean, it's rare from me, so take it while you can. I usually don't. I usually don't spread the hopium. But I mean, we're still in this kind of formation, right? Don't get like overly excited. It's just, I mean, the fact that we didn't break down, even though open interest ballooned, is a good sign. The worst thing that could happen though, like if tomorrow just engulfs this entire green day, we all know what's gonna come, right? And that's the thing where I'm like, okay, at least we have close invalidation because I mean, if we get any kind of shitty price action in the next few days, we know where it's gonna go. And then we know to bid 20K. And then the crypto markets are really gonna get fucked. But yeah, so far so good. Not expecting it at the moment. Silicio was saying how boomers literally printed the most obvious pattern at top, head and shoulders, pretty obvious. They're laughing on us. I mean, it's kind of funny because everyone was expecting this to play out. And instead we got like a traditional kind of market top, which kind of has this already inbuilt, right? This is more traditional, like the traditional markets like to do this more. The crypto markets like to do this more. It's kind of funny that we got the institutional kind of top this time around. But I mean, not surprising given who's trading it right now, right? So I mean, as long as we're chilling here, completely fine by me. I'm gonna be looking for an entry on, like I'm gonna look for buys. And if it goes to shit in the next few days, I mean, is what it is, right? We kind of have that luxury. And that's the good thing about like, I mean, I know it sounds stupid, right? But that's the good thing about selling the top is that you can actually just like take your time. Because I was getting massive FOMO yesterday. I don't know if any of you guys reads my tweets, but I was tweeting in here and on this way down, I was getting massive FOMO. And I have these feelings only right before we either like giga nuke to like nothing or at the bottom, and like 90% of the time it's at the bottom. So at least short-term bottom, right? So that proved to be right. I was just too fucking greedy. I've been that way for years now. It's just kind of my trading style, being too greedy. Either we succumb to the bear or the crab. I mean, it's one way to look at it. But yeah, like I said, like I'm not in position yet. I'm looking for the daily close again. I know I said it yesterday, but yesterday I just fell asleep. Should have bought that daily close. But now I'm looking for the daily close again. See if it's above 34K. I mean, I'd be surprised if it wasn't. But if it isn't, I mean, get the fuck out, run for the hills, right? 34K, like that has to turn into support. And it really looks like it's going to. Damn it, I should have read Twitter yesterday. Yeah, but then again, like I didn't say bye. I was just saying I'm getting FOMO. And yeah. My feelings on that matter usually in the right ballpark anyway. Do you just use horizontal lines mostly? I mean, I use more than that. So when I'm looking at this, right, I do look at open interest on exchanges, on derivatives. I look at funding, even though I don't do it like I look at this and then I make a plan, right? I look at these time frames that I keep talking about and I make a plan. I want to, like, for example, we closed in this weekly time frame, in this weekly range, right? This is the range top, this is the range bottom. So we closed there and I was like, okay, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen, right? You're going to see resistance at the range top and then you're going to see support at the range low. And I based my trading plan around that. And then I looked at pretty much everything, like every other time frame, open interest and funding, among a few other things that I have other friends to look at for me because I'm too lazy. And then when it looks right, I just buy support, right? And that's what we did on the first nuke, was what we did on the second one, and then on the third one. And I should have been buying this. So it's not only horizontals, but like my trading plan is based around it. And I mean, you can see how it works, right? Weekly support, like if you're not a believer or whatever, I mean, I'm fine with that, right? No one has to. But the fact that this broke down and like stopped exactly at the support level tells you a lot, in my opinion, anyway. And that's the case for most of these things. Now, a lot of people seem to think you have a support level here. That means we have to go there immediately, right? For example, on this pullback, and that's not the case. It's just that if we go there and you're a buyer, you're more likely to be right than wrong, right? And that's why I've been buying like a couple of times at the lows down here because it is at support. But yeah, I mean, still fucking sideways, the crabs. And still, I mean, there's still some time towards the daily close. Dude, I'd be looking like a fucking idiot if it closes below 34K. I mean, I wouldn't lose any money, but I'd look like a fucking idiot after saying what I've been saying. But I mean, open to be wrong on that one. Just copy trader as these levels, Keck. Saves you time plus EV. Nah, his lines are worse than mine. It's just how it is. Okay, so yeah, that's that. The more interesting part, and the reason why I'm pretty sure this has some legs at least, is that on the bounce of this, like this entire like bounce that we've had, ETH PTC has been like underperforming, as in ETH's been struggling a little bit to keep up with Bitcoin, which means it's less like, I would say the kind of buying that's been going on is more on the fundamental kind of side of things and less on the speculative side of things, which I like. Like I usually like when Bitcoin kind of finds a bottom and then rallies off while altcoins kind of take a little bit of a shit, because that means that you're not seeing like retail start piling in on these things. It's just Bitcoin being bid, and then Bitcoin can keep rallying and altcoins kind of take a little bit of a pullback and then at some point go back up again. In general, like the reason why I was getting like really bearish in the 60Ks was because altcoins were outperforming Bitcoin. Bitcoin looked like garbage. And the opposite is true as well. Like Bitcoin looks pretty decent now and the altcoins look or are underperforming. So, I mean, it's not a bad sign for me. It's more of a good sign. Now, if ETHUSD starts tanking, that's a little bit of a different matter. You don't want to be seeing this go completely crazy to the downside, because then it can pull Bitcoin down with it. It's just, I want to see the ratios kind of tank a little bit while Bitcoin goes up. Not entirely sure that's going to happen. I mean, the crypto market's been kind of growing a lot, and there's a few new players in the game that make trading this thing a little bit different, but that's kind of what I'm looking for anyway. Can you please explain how open interest works and how to use it as an indicator? I mean, open interest, right? You have a derivatives platform, right? And on that platform, right, let's say you're looking at FTX, for example, right? You have longs and you have shorts, and they're always the same. Like, this is something that a bunch of people are doing wrong, right? So you have longs, so people that buy, and on the other side of things, for people to be buying stuff, there has to be a seller, right? And it's always 50-50. So you could be arguing, okay, why, like, this doesn't help me one bit. Like, there's always as many sellers or like there's always as much stuff sold as there is bought on these derivatives platforms. But what you can kind of see is that, like, you can kind of look at who's selling to whom, right? So if you get like a bunch of retail people get really bearish at the lows and start market shorting, right? Doesn't mean that the short amount on that platform, like that is suddenly 60% shorts, 40% longs or whatever, that like it's always 50-50, but it means that like those kind of people, they usually kind of trade at high leverage, they're in danger, right? Whereas when you have like these market makers and like bigger people that are just kind of trying to capture the differences between exchanges and between spot price and derivatives prices, they're not going to be highly levered and they're not going to be squeezed as easily, right? Because they're usually neutral, right? So that means that when you have a bunch of apes starting to short, open interest, or like to long, the same, like we've had the same thing in here basically. Open interest goes through the roof, even though like longs and shorts are the same amount. There's different people behind the two, right? And then you have one side in danger. And we've had that kind of led to this massive wick to the downside of the kind of retail longs getting liquidated. And it's arguable who's doing what now, but I mean, there's decent chance that a bunch of people's been shorting into the lows. But yeah, when open interest goes high, right? When open interest goes through the roof, that means you have a bunch of people levered on derivatives exchanges. And I mean, they basically borrowed money, right? They borrowed money to trade with, and they have to give it back. And if they're wrong, they get fucked and they have to get out. And when open interest is high, that just means that a bunch of people are in position. And if the market moves in one direction too much, they're at risk of being liquidated or getting stopped out or whatever. So when open interest goes high, you can expect kind of bigger moves. And I mean, we've had bigger moves, and then you can kind of see, okay, who's getting trapped. For example, during this down move, like the only way this was gonna stop was through a liquidation event, because you have a bunch of people trapped, and the moment one of them or a bunch of them get liquidated or stopped out or whatever, other people get liquidated and stopped out as well. And that leads to these massive candles. And the fact that we have high open interest again means that if we're short squeezing, it can go much higher than we think. That's why I'm like saying, like I've been saying, I could see this overshoot 40K, right? And the reason for that is that open interest is reasonably high. So when people start getting wrecked, it could easily push beyond technical support levels. And the same is true for support, like for support levels, right? So we had pretty big open interest at these lows. That's why it was a little bit scary to buy this, because if you're wrong, it's just going to liquidate people to the downside. You're going to get this candle again. But I mean, I'm not an expert on this kind of stuff. It's just like the most simple explanation that I can give. It's something that you should know how it works when you're trading. Like if you're an investor, it doesn't really matter, right? Because like these liquidation events, while they're good investment kind of opportunities, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they don't change anything. But as a trader, like these are pretty much the biggest events that you have to watch out for. These kind of days are gonna make or break you in your trading career. And open interest and funding and all that kind of stuff can help you see who's in danger of getting fucked like this. Why are the shorts piling up on Phoenix or Bitcoin but not ETH? I mean, no idea. You would have to talk with the person that's doing it. No idea. Bitfinex has insane open interest now. Yeah, Bitfinex is a little bit different because on Bitfinex you can trade spot, and you can like the spot markets and the leveraged markets or whatever you want to call them are the same. So that's why you can have more than 50-50. Like on every derivatives exchange, it's like 50-50, right? Same amount of longs to shorts, and on Bitfinex, it's different. So like people have been, back in the day, people were like, there was this site that kind of showed you like open positions or whatever, and then like there was like Bitfinex, and it said like 10% are long, 90% are short, and people are like, okay, this is gonna short squeeze, but that's stupid. Bitfinex, like that's just not how it works, one. And two, you can just you can do all kinds of shenanigans on that platform and psyops people if you want to. I mean, it's pretty expensive to do, but I mean, I wouldn't trust that too much. Where do you go to see the OI? I mean, there's a bunch of ways to do it. You can just go on the pages. Like you can go on BitMEX, open it up, and see how high the OI is on a certain contract. Isn't price just mostly spot driven? That's a good question, and the answer is like most of the time it is. But during ranges, like for example, during this range, BitMEX, for example, had a pretty large influence on price. So what happens in crypto, you have derivatives exchanges and you have spot exchanges, right? And derivatives should be kind of following spot exchanges. But what can also happen is that when you have like derivatives exchanges, like a bunch above spot exchanges, then people start to kind of buy on spot, sell derivatives, and then you actually have like the derivatives lead the market. If it happens too long and it overextends, usually mean corrects. It means like you get like a big candle on BitMEX or on FTX or wherever, and then it usually just immediately drops back down while people start to arbitrage that away. But yeah, usually spot exchanges should be leading the market. It's not always the case, and when it's ranging, oftentimes you have like derivatives do stuff. But yeah, I mean, I hope I'm not boring you guys. Like that's stuff we usually don't talk about. But I mean, if it interests you, we can do that more often. There's not that like too much to talk about there, but it's like all important. And the one thing that I can recommend you do if you're trying to trade this crypto market is go to your favorite exchange and then just read their documentation that they have. I know that BitMEX has excellent documentation. If you go there and read what every contract means and how it works, you're going to understand this space much, much better than you do nowadays. So that's what I'm recommending, because people really don't know what they're trading. Like I see it all the time. Like people don't know how funding works. People don't know how leverage works. People think like liquidations, like you have to get liquidated or whatever. Like it's all nonsense. Like there's a bunch of misinformation out there, and it's just stuff that you should be looking into if you're trying to take this seriously. And I know like you don't have to take it seriously when Shiba is like mooning and everything is going 10x, right? But if you want to be in this long term, you should be looking up on that stuff. Phoenix longs are high. Yeah, like I said, like Phoenix is in a world of itself. Like Phoenix longs are short. I mean, that's one person basically can do that on Phoenix. There's stupidly large whales there, and they play funny games. And sometimes you can see them build their position, and you're like, it's gonna get wrecked, and then it goes their way. And sometimes they get wrecked, or you think they do, and the thing is, right? You see, for example, Phoenix longs moon, and then you see and you see that, and you're like, okay, that's like, or Phoenix shorts or whatever. Both doesn't really matter, right? And then you're like, okay, that guy has a clue. He knows how this market is gonna move or whatever. But the thing is, that same person could be on FTX or on Bybit or on BitMEX, and just hedging that all the way, and it's like a neutral play. And that's something that like a lot of people kind of forget about. I mean, there's a bunch of places that you can trade this, and most people, including myself, we're not just moving on just one exchange. You want to be taking advantage of kind of the space that you're given, and we have like a bunch of exchanges that you can use. So don't expect like all of these like bigger players to just move on one exchange, because it's not the case. So yeah. It's because you can settle positions on Bitfinex. Yeah, I mean, if I had to get into that, people would just be confused. But I can only recommend, like, if you're looking at Bitfinex data and you're like confused, just go there and read their documentation. Read about how to settle your positions and that kind of stuff, because otherwise you're not going to understand it. But I don't want to explain it because I mean, it would go way too much into detail. Would have to make like a separate stream for that at some point. Maybe I will. But yeah, that's Bitcoin. Like I said, at support, I think it's gonna go up. I think 40K most reasonable. But like I said, OI is high, so I could see a squeeze beyond that to like 40, 44, 45, and then we'll have to wait and see. And if it goes to shit, if I'm wrong, basically, right? And like I said, I'm not in position just for your info, so I'm actually hoping it dips a little so I can get one. But if it goes completely wrong and it not only dips a little but loses 34K, I think it's fucked. And then I don't think 30K is going to hold again. If anything, we're going to wipe out 28K, but I don't think that would hold. So either we're going to go here and then maybe up, maybe down, who knows, right? That's what I think is going to happen. But if I'm wrong and this just starts going down, I'm pretty sure at this point it's fucked and it's going to head much lower. So this is what I think will happen. If I'm wrong on that, I mean, there's going to still be like, for the people that are looking for short trades or whatever, there's still going to be a trade lower to much lower, in my opinion. And there's not that much. And the best part about all of this is that there's really not that big of a difference between where we are right now and where it's wrong. It's just like 5%. That's nothing in the grand scheme of things. So crab is over. I mean, the thing is, this into crab would make a lot of sense to me too. So it doesn't have to be over. I just think like how the market looks right now, it makes a lot of sense to overshoot and undershoot supports. Okay, so we looked at Bitcoin. Let's look at ETH. That looks kind of shitty to me anyway, for the first time in a while. Like ETH BTC, I mean, high time frame wise still looks completely fine, but ETH USD just is like, I don't want to be trading this. Resistance been holding, even though we've had some closes above it. I would say that's just more of a shakeout. Makes me even more like expectant to at least see this go sideways, right? So I like, if you want to be bullish, and I've been saying the opposite, right, for the last, I don't know, feels like 2 months or something, where I've been saying if you want to be bullish, like look at ETH, and if you want to be bearish, look at Bitcoin. Now I think you want to be doing the opposite, right? If you're bullish, you want to be looking at Bitcoin, see if it can actually break out. And if you're bearish, I mean, might as well look at ETH if you want to. And then support's still like 1.9K. That should hopefully hold. If it doesn't, I mean, I'm not going to touch it unless it goes much, much lower. So ETH's also in a range, but this is a worse looking range in my opinion than Bitcoin's. Okay, so we go up, down, or horizontal. I mean, if that's what you're getting from me, like explaining what I've just explained, I mean, fine by me. I mean, I wish I could give you like a 100%, but that's just not how trading works. If you hear someone give you 100%, I mean, they're either fraud or an idiot, in my opinion, anyway. What makes today's bounce different and more bullish than last day's bounces? So, one, we were kind of on the edge. Like, whenever you have a support level, right, and you test it a bunch of times, it gets weaker and weaker. And I mean, you can see it. We actually started closing below these candles, which means this was basically breaking down. I was still leaning on the range theory, just based on the fact that, I mean, there's pretty strong support down here. It's roughly where Tesla bought as well. So, you know, I mean, there's a bunch of interest in here, right? But technically this broke down already. And what's happening today is it's a range reclaim of this like smaller range in here. Let me actually draw this. So you could argue this is the range, the more recent one, and then you have like a bigger range and higher time frame range down here. And it bounced from the higher time frame range, and you could argue this is the resistance, right? So you have your kind of higher time frame levels here, and then you have your lower time frame levels here and here. And what kind of happened was that we broke the lower time frame to the downside and then found support at this pretty major support level. Like I said, Tesla bought there. And something that you can keep in mind, whenever you have like big companies buy something at a price, when it dips back there, other big companies are going to look at that. And if they want to get positioned, they're going to position roughly there, right? They're just going to be like, okay, Tesla bought here. That's fine. Like that price is fine by me. I'm going to get in there too. Because, I mean, Tesla bought and a bunch of hedge funds that weren't really interested got suddenly interested. And I mean, the level that's going to interest them the most is going to be the level where basically the reason for them to get in got in, right? So they're going to be looking at this level. And yeah, just a typical kind of loss of range, reclaim of the range. And whenever you have that, I mean, maybe we get a dip tomorrow a little bit. I'm not even sure if we're going to get that. And then you would expect a push towards the upper boundary. Now we've tested that upper boundary 2 times. Makes sense to go to like 40K again, but like I said, with open interest being like it is, makes sense to squeeze a little bit. So that's why I think like this is more significant, because it's actually a range reclaim as long as it closes back above 34. If it doesn't, I mean, if this retraces in the next 4 hours, right? The daily closes in 4 hours and closes back below 34K, then it would look like a bearish retest of that range. And I would expect it to fizzle out and drop. So makes sense to wait 4 hours, see how it looks. But at that point, if it closes above, I would say the chances of it going towards 40K and above are higher than it going lower. And then you just have a typical kind of risk reward play. Your risk's somewhere down in the 30s, right? And your reward is somewhere up in the 40s. And then if I'm like, okay, this is pretty much 50-50 where it's gonna go because it's ranging, but I have like this amazing of a risk reward setup, I mean, that's a pretty good play to me. Makes that, like, does that make it clear? I hope it does, because I mean, I don't think I can explain it any better, but that's kind of how I look at it anyway. Just my way of looking at charts. Thumb down for clickbaity title. I mean, this is a pretty fucking big bounce. But I mean, click the thumbs up or thumbs down anyway. Because the good thing is, and this is like a YouTube secret, is that it doesn't really matter, like whichever you press. I appreciate both. I obviously appreciate the like more than the dislike, but it doesn't really matter. It's hilarious because like people are like angry when they see like shitty videos and they downvote it, and the algorithm likes it anyway, basically, because you're actually interacting with a video which they like. Hi there, could this be a big rounded retest of this higher time frame level? I mean, the entire move from the initial Tesla buy and this bounce of the same level What do you mean? Rounded retest as like basically rounding out like this and then going up? Like the thing is, market structure in here is not constructive, right? So if it is, it would have to kind of go up here, maybe go down a little and then go up, because then you would actually have like a rounded retest. The fact that it's retesting has me spooked. Like, not gonna lie, like this shouldn't have been retested. It's pretty big news that Tesla bought, and them getting basically or starting to get underwater for even a little bit is not really a thing that you want to be seeing. But I mean, if that's how you want to be looking at the market, I mean, fine by me. It's not terrible. In general, like if you're a cautious kind of guy, it makes sense to be bullish above here. But given how the market looks, that might be the trap that you're buying, right? And there's something that you always have to kind of keep in mind, because a lot of people are like keep talking about confirmation here, confirmation there, right? The confirmation of a breakout of this range would indeed be like a close above 40K. But as we know, like we have a bunch of open interest to squeeze. We have a bunch of people shorting into like 30K. If they get squeezed, it's easily possible that we're breaking above it, and then squeezes can get easily retraced. So the breakout doesn't have to mean anything. And then you're wondering why you're getting chopped. And the reason is because you're buying like basically a confirmation that really isn't a confirmation. Oftentimes buying into a breakdown and then like getting lower time frame confirmations for your idea is the better play, right? And I mean, you can look at this, and my idea was basically buying below this swing low, and then you look at the lower time frames, right? So what it did was basically immediately it hit it, immediately went up, and then at the latest stage, and I mean I was sleeping during that, your confirmation on the lower time frames was basically kind of reclaiming this shitty support in here, this 4-hour support, right? So let me delete this real quick, right? So you could be waiting for daily kind of confirmation, but you can also look at the lower time frame, see, okay, this kind of, we traded in here. This was, like I said, when I felt the FOMO come in for me. And then we broke below it, immediately went back above it and tested it and rallied from it. And if you want more confirmation on that idea, you even have this entire swing low down here, acts as resistance again, and then gets engulfed. And the moment it does, I mean, you're probably going to see a few more candles to the upside. So, yeah. Okay, enough about that. We've talked enough about like strategies and whatever. Don't think it's terribly exciting to listen to. Can you add volume? I don't really care about it, so no. But you can do it. Just open BitMEX or Coinbase and add the volume to it. I don't really care about it. Hi Dawn, does it not look very similar to the lower low made in the 50-60K range before market dumped? Which one do you mean? This one? I wouldn't say so, because the thing is, what you have in here, and I mean, I'm not the biggest bull, right? I'm not the biggest bull, but what you have here is like, you have a push to the downside, and then you can see the impulses here, right? You have a big impulse here, right? This candle, big impulse. And then you have a second one that closes lower, much smaller, right? And it bounces, and then you get basically a third impulse to the downside. It's not even an impulse, but like whatever. And then you get a fourth one. And all of them haven't been able to push the market down too much, right? So as long as the floor that's been set here, like this is clearly being defended down here, like my 32K level, which I've been talking about for the last weeks and months, like clearly someone is scooping up a bunch in that area, right? As long as that isn't broken, impulses into that level are actually getting weaker, right? So considering that fact, makes this look much better than this, because in this case, the bullish impulses got weaker and weaker, right? You can kind of see, like this was a pretty significant push, it was a smaller push, and you can kind of see how this just starts rounding out. In this case, it's the opposite. Starts rounding out down here. Now that doesn't have to mean this is the bottom, right? Like I said, if we break below here, it's completely fucked, because whoever bought in here is getting underwater and might want to be getting out again. But unless that happens, we're still looks good to me anyway. Okay. When green lines, I mean, it's not on me, but I mean, I'm gonna change this one to green today. Can delete these ones, don't need them anymore. But yeah, this one's gonna be interesting. Flip that to green, flip this one to green, and we're good to go. Doesn't support get weaker on retests? Yeah, it does. Which is why this is so significant that we actually bounced, because yesterday would have been the day, like if this was actually weak, yesterday would have been the day to break it, and we didn't. So as long as we don't get back there, because like legitimately if we go back there, like that's a massive sign of weakness, because this was one really good bullish news, and two, basically the last time that we can test this level, for me anyway. But yeah, enough about that. I think I've repeated myself like 10 times. Excuse, like I'm sorry for boring anyone, if I'm boring anyone. With the Bitfinex short buildup, do you think that helps confirm a bearish bias more? How often you found that Bitfinex short OI buildup is useful? I don't look at it much. I'm looking at it out of curiosity. Excuse me, I would never make a plan based on it. Like I've seen some people yesterday shorting down here, talking about like the Bitfinex short and how it's going up and whatever, and he has to know something. I mean, if that's your only strategy, Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, there's really not that much more to say. Like, let's say you use it as confluence and you can find something in there, then I mean, do it. Because I mean, Bitfinex has been showing, like for example, for ETH's been really interesting. ETH's been aggressively bought down when it was breaking down in March on Bitfinex, and then aggressively bought like right up to like 500 or something, and it mooned right out of there. And I mean, if you can make something of that data, should do it, but you have to have your own kind of idea on what's happening too. What about the def cross? I don't really care about it. It's not something I use. One, there's so many, and with so many I mean two, but still, like there's two different ones. There's the exponential moving average and the normal one, and they're gonna have different def crosses, and then there's like the moving averages are going to be different on every single time frame. It's whatever. It's not like you can look at it and you can use it as confluence, but like I said, don't take one thing and make your entire idea based on it, right? It's just not worth it. You need to have some confluence, otherwise you're just basically blindly guessing. Okay, Don, what's your take on this short position? I've already talked about it. Yeah, it's just one guy basically, and I mean, he's been like, there's been a bunch of times where like Bitfinex people have been right and where they've been wrong. I mean, make of it what you will. If you're like bearish and you see that and you're like, okay, this guy is bearish, then take it as confluence and short as well. How are you still looking at Bitcoin? People have been asking questions, a lot of questions actually. I have no idea why people are still hanging around and like talking about the same thing over and over again. But yeah, that's Bitcoin. Cred's getting bored, so we have to move on. We talked about ETH briefly. I mean, I wouldn't touch it, just like in general. Like I'm not gonna touch it. If you look at Bitcoin, right, like you can make so many good plans off of this chart because it's really obvious, right? You lose 32K, this shit's going to 20K. you break out, it's gonna go up, right? Now with ETH, it's completely different, right? Like, what do you do with this? It breaks 28k at 2.8k. It goes to 3.2, right? I mean, yeah, I can see that, and it goes to like 1.9k, and that might be support, but I'm not even sure if I want to be buying that. And then what does it do if it breaks 1.9k? I have no idea, right? I'd be comfortable with bidding 800 if it breaks 1.9k. But like, that's so far away, it's pretty unrealistic to hit. But that's how far I would be bidding if it breaks 1.9k, just because I'd be like, okay, this market's fucked. And then if I get filled there, nice. And if I don't, I mean, let's say this breaks down and then bounces, right? I mean, there's still a play to be made at 1.9k. But I'm not even sure if I wanted to take that trade, because this chart then would look completely fucking weird. So it's like, when I have like such a nice chart to trade with Bitcoin, and ETH just looks like this, I'm just gonna ignore it because it's not worth it. And I think it's pretty much the same for every single other altcoin, which sucks. I know that's the boring thing to say, but like Litecoin, I mean, yeah, you could be buying the support down here, but I mean, where does it go from there? It could easily just fizzle out, or it could go up, or it could go down. Like, there's nothing clear about this chart at all. ADA, I mean, where does this go? Fucking no idea. Like, this is basically where the market's at right now, where everyone's super confused. We've had a massive breakdown on Bitcoin while people were bullish on these altcoins, and now they're just giga chopping, right? And when that's the case, and people just got liquidated for a bunch, and retail interest is focused on AMC and GME and all that kind of stuff, I just know that my time is better spent in the market that's actually volatile and in the market that's leading everything, and that's Bitcoin, right? So we could be looking at all of these altcoins together, and I could be saying, okay, this looks better than this one. And I mean, there's a few outliers that look better than other ones, but in general, like, why bother, right? I think you're wasting your time if you're looking at these altcoins right now. Hopefully, I'm not saying this before we get like an old season, because one, if we get an old season here, I would think Bitcoin has like legitimately topped and we're in for a bear market. And two, because I would sound like an idiot, but in general, like, for me, looking at all of this, like, what we've had basically, other than if you want to be shorting these, right, what we've had is a bunch of breakouts that lead to nothing, and or led to nothing. So there's not that much to do in the crypto markets besides for Bitcoin, I think. Cardano guy in chat earlier, it's your time. Like, the thing is with Cardano, right? It's been outperforming and it's been strong, but like, what's your target for Cardano, right? If you're targeting anything besides like previous bubble top, I think you're crazy, and that's not that far away. And then where could it go if it doesn't reach that? I think it could easily go down here, and then like that kind of risk reward is garbage. So unless you're an investor, I mean, trading this doesn't make any sense. In my opinion, anyway. It's far from structure. Next structure is kind of down here. And even then, meh. So yeah, sorry for like the altcoin kind of outlook. Like, I'm pretty certain, and I know what I'm going to do with Bitcoin. No fucking idea about these altcoins, and that's something that I don't like shy away from saying, because I mean, I could make shit up, but that's not going to help anyone. It's not something that I want to be doing, so I just don't. And that's why we've been talking about Bitcoin still, because I mean, what else is there to talk about? Like, people throw like names at me, but it's like retail's basically disappeared during this drop, and until they reappear again and the market goes completely crazy again, might be time to just chill on your altcoin front. Denial for Bitcoin, everyone underweight Bitcoin. Now with new momentum, maybe rotation happens back into Bitcoin, while ETH BTC tests support lower and just sideways, basically. That would be the most bullish thing for the entire crypto market. Like, the best thing for the crypto market, even like, it might sound like it might suck to hear this, but the best thing for the crypto market in general would be Bitcoin up, altcoins down, because then what happens is the Altcoin USD, basically the chart of Altcoin USD basically flatlines, and we've had that before. Bitcoin goes for like the super cycle or whatever, and once it's done, you get an old season where altcoins catch back up and it all dumps to shit, right? So that would be the most bullish thing for altcoins, in my opinion anyway, midterm. But yeah, I think there's a good argument to be made for rotation back into Bitcoin, because what we've been seeing is basically even like big funds all shill ETH, and the narrative seems to be shifting a little bit, at least in my opinion, back towards the good old trusty Bitcoin. So I'm not opposed to that view. When you say if we lose 32K, we go to 20K, what does it mean? We just bounce from 31K. That's the thing, right? So my argument is we've bounced from this level a million times, right? If you go back to it now, after having a bunch of bullish news in here and basically have had like a squeeze to the upside, that would mean the market is incredibly weak, cannot even support this kind of like bullish narrative, because what this is, right? And this is like something that people always have trouble with, and I don't understand why, right? You could feel the sentiment in the market getting worse and worse during this entire move down. And what this explosion is basically is people getting back on the bull side of things, right? And if that cannot be sustained, and if everyone that bought in this gets offside, that just means they're gonna get fucked. Everyone that bought this gets fucked. Everyone that bought down here gets fucked, because then it's getting tested for the like 5th time. So they might be thinking about getting out, and then there's basically no new buyers in here, because I mean there's been so much bought at that level already, right? So yes, we bounced from that level just a day ago, but if we go there again in the next few days, I think it's fucked regardless. So there you go. That's my quickest explanation I can give for it. MSTR stock is a crazy ride, up 10% today. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why anyone would be buying it, honestly. You just buy Bitcoin instead. Makes much more sense to me. Don, can you remind me never to tweet charts TA stuff again? Why? Do you get shit for it? Suddenly all the tarts are in my mentions. Yeah, I mean that's the kind of normal cycle of things. I mean, I gotta say, like the IQ of like Twitter comments has dropped significantly in the last few months. But yeah, I mean that's just my view on the market. I hope it helps. I mean, it's just been Bitcoin only, and I mean I think there's not that much to talk about other than Bitcoin. So I think we've spent our time wisely, and yeah, that's kind of my view on things. Before I end the show, I want to thank the sponsor Blockfolio for kind of sponsoring this, making it happen. They've been kind enough to say that, or to pay us for what we do, which I appreciate. I probably wouldn't do it otherwise. I mean, I'd show it from time to time, but wouldn't do it regularly. So yeah, big shout out to them. Like I said, check out their stuff. Links are in the description. And yeah, thanks for coming by. See you guys next time. Bye bye.